Welcome to Wondrous Creatures. We're going to be out exploring with our crew on this mysterious island, collecting resources which will in turn entice these wondrous creatures into our tableau, hopefully getting these achievement goals and beating the AI bot Tingent. That is the premise of the game, so let's go check out how does solo play on this game. And what we're going to do is, right at the end of the video, we're going to do a bit of a mini review and I'll give you my final thoughts on Wondrous Creatures. So let's get straight into what do we have in front of us. Well, we have the main board here, which has got the island on here. The island's going to be broken up into different hexes. We have the plains, we have the mountains, we have the habitats, and we also have the lakes. We've got all of our achievement goals here. We have some trophies. Now the trophies will be the end game trigger. Once all those trophies are gone, that is the end of the game. Where the AI bot will be this red armadillo / scorpion thing. They're going to have the AI bot cards down here, and this is Tingent. Now, Tingent has 4 levels. I'm playing the second level, so fairly easy. But look, we're going to be taking on Tingent anyway. Over here is the wilderness. These are going to be all the cards that we're going to be able to purchase. We've got 4 cards down here already. Now, these cards are not in my tableau. These cards are currently just in my hand. Now, if we were playing a 2, 3, or 4 player game, obviously they'd be hidden, they'd be just in your hand. But because it's solo play, obviously we want to see those. But I'll bring them down so I know that they're not in my tableau. Remember, I've got to spend resources to get them from my hand into my tableau. And here's my player board. I'm this white owl looking creature. Here's my captain, Macus. It's a bit of like Indiana Jones sort of thing. Anyway, Macus has got a special ability which currently is locked, which is the captain's ability. But over here is my resources. Now there's 4 habitats: mushroom, flowers, coral, and fruit. Currently have 1 resource of each. Up the top here is where all my eggs are going to go. But let's just get straight into my first turn. And what we have here is my crew members. I'm going to now put my crew member on the board. Now, these crew members take up 2 hexes. Now, if I put them on the plains, it's free. But if I touch a mountain, remember the green ones here are mountains, I would have to spend 1 resource. But right now, I like this idea. I'm going to take these 2 spots here, which covers up an egg, which I then can put on my board, which covers up the 1 point, which gets me on here on 1 point. So I'm already in the lead, pretty happy with that. Now I'm adjacent to 2 flower habitats. Now I have 3 options here. I can either spend those to go up the flower resource track, or I could get flower cards here. There's a 1 flower symbol there, so I could gain that card. So you can do it 3 ways. I can gain 2 resources, or I can gain 1 resource and 1 card, or I could grab 2 cards if there's 2 flower cards. So what I'll do is I'll just spend the 2 on resources, and we've just gone up to 3 on my flower resource. So that's nice and easy. Now there's one last thing I can do is I have a net here. Now this net is telling me I can grab something that is adjacent to me here, either the egg or this special effect. So there's all these little white circles with special effects in them. But I reckon for now, let's just spend this to grab 1 more egg. Put my egg up here. Now if I cover this icon, it's telling me I can grab 1 card from the wilderness. And let's see, what card do I want? Well, I don't really have a plan at this stage, so let's just go with that one. Looks fine. Okay, excellent. So I've done that. I grabbed the egg. I spent my net. I grabbed 2 resources because I'm adjacent to 2 flower habitats. So I went up there, but instead, remember, I could have got flower cards. And that's pretty much my turn. So let's go to Tingent. And what we're going to do, let's have a look at how Tingent's card breaks down. So what we have here is a little yellow side and a little brown side. Now, right now, if you look at the board here, there's little yellow cogs up the top and brown cogs down the bottom. Right now, we're in the yellow cog section, so we're only looking at that yellow section. If we were in the brown cog section, these would be flipped over and would only be doing the brown effects. So right now, this is telling me to put the crew member in between flowers. So right now, that would have been the most optimum spot, but it's going to look at what is the next most optimum spot. So it's looking for where can it put it. So there's a flower there, so it could put it there. So there's a few restrictions for Tingent. Tingent can never go on mountains. None of us can ever go on lakes, and none of us can ever cover habitat. So it has to go on these plain sections. So it could go there, or it could go there. That's the only 2 options it has. Because remember, it has to be touching a flower. So the next thing, let's step this down. So we've gone for the most flowers, and right now we're even with 1 each. Next thing we're looking for is the most habitats that it touches. So right now, this is touching 2 habitats. If it went there, it'd also be touching 2. So that's also even. Next, we're looking at special effects. This is 2 special effects. That one has 2 special effects, again, even. So the last thing we're looking for, which one is adjacent to the most eggs? Now it's gonna be this one over here. So it's gonna go there, it's gonna cover up an egg, and it's gonna grab the egg to go down into the Tingent play area. Now these eggs are gonna help Tingent get some of these goals down here, and especially these species goals right here. So excellent, so Tingent has now moved there. It is adjacent to 1 flower habitat, so it's gonna gain 1 point. Excellent, now the last part of this card is telling me to grab 1 card from this deck here, and it's gonna go face down. So Tingent has face down cards and face up cards. Now, they're gonna be scored in different ways. For this version of Tingent, the face down cards are gonna be worth 2 points each. Excellent, so that is done. Tingent is done its turn, and we are back to me. And I reckon for now, I wanna get more resources. So let's go up here. We've got 1, 2, 3 fruit. And look, for now, I reckon let's just grab those resources. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Super simple turn, a lot easier than my first turn. Back to Tingent. And we have here, Tingent now is looking for, you've got some cogwheels over here. Yellow one, brown one, and a blue one. So it's looking for the yellow cogwheel, and what it's looking for is to grab a wilderness card that matches the symbol on the yellow cogwheel. So we've got orange monkey, blue fish. So we're looking for those symbols, and look, there's 1 blue fish there, so that's the card it's gonna grab, and it's gonna go face up there. Excellent, so that's all done, and there's one last thing here. This one has a red cogwheel, which just basically means this is gonna move down 1 on the cogwheel. It's gonna snake its way down, and that's another way it's gonna ramp up. As you can see down the bottom, a lot more things down the bottom there, so it's the way the game's gonna ramp up. Excellent, that is Tingent's turn finished. Now my turn. I'm thinking, what am I thinking right now? Well, I'm thinking I want to play a card. So this card here has got 2 bird symbols on it. I've got 2 bird symbols here. I've got a bird egg there. That would be 3 bird symbols, which would actually help me achieve this. So maybe I want to purchase this card. So this card's going to cost me 2 fruit, 1 mushroom. So 1, 2 fruit, 1 mushroom. Now, whenever you play out cards, you can always do 2 if you can. What else have I got here? I can't actually afford any of the others. So terrible work, not very efficient. But anyway, look, I've played out 1 card. Now you always get what's on the bottom of the card. This one is actually just an end of game card. So this means for all the bird symbols I have at the end of the game, I get 1 point. So maybe it's in my interest to maybe get a lot of bird symbols out in my tableau. Anyway, I'm done. Let's move on to Tingent now. And Tingent is looking now to move out its captain into the most mushrooms. So 1 mushroom there, 2 mushrooms there, so it's definitely going to go here. It's adjacent to 2 mushrooms, so it's going to gain 2 points. And it's also going to gain 1 card here from the top of the deck. Excellent. That is the end of that turn. Now back to me. What am I going to do now? Well, I think I just want to get that achievement. Now there's a reason I want to do that, but let's do that now. So I've got 2 there. Let's spend the egg, so you turn it over. So that means now I can't spend that egg again for these achievements unless I rehatch it, basically turn it back over again. There's a few cards that'll let you do that. But for now, I've achieved 3 eggs. So I'm going to grab one of these inkwells. I'm going to put it on there. And I've now achieved my first trophy. Remember, these trophies are the end game trigger. So now I've got 1 trophy, 7 left to go. But what I've done is by getting my first inkwell out, is I've now opened up my captain's ability. I've taken off the lock, and now every time my captain is facing a special effect, now remember these are asymmetric abilities, but for Macca's, every time he is facing a special effect, he will also get that for free. So that's my special ability there. Now, let's move on. That's the end of my turn there because I did my achievement. So let's just recap what I can do on my turn. So I can either play cards by spending resources. I can put out my meeple, which will gain me more resources. I can do an achievement like I just did then. And the last thing will be to recharge, which is bringing your meeples back, and we'll go through that shortly. Okay, next one here now is the same as we had before. Yellow cog, and we're looking for card in the wilderness. Now, we are looking for monkeys or fish. No monkeys or fish. What we're gonna do, if there's no icons on the wilderness, then it just grabs 1 from the top of the deck and just goes in the face down pile. So there we go. Okay, excellent. So Tingent has now done its turn. No red cog, nothing happens there. Back to me, and I'm definitely gonna put my captain out now. I am the captain. I am the captain now. Okay, coral. 3 coral habitats that it's adjacent to, plus the special effect icon, which is also a coral. So 4 coral. So how do I want to do this? Are there any coral cards? Yes, there's 1 coral card. So let's maybe take that. And that leaves me with 3 coral left. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. So again, to rehash, I'm adjacent to 3 coral, plus my captain's ability gives me the special effect, which is another coral, which gave me 4 coral, which was 1 coral card, and I went 3 coral resources. End of my turn, over to Tingent, and Tingent is looking for its crew member adjacent to the most coral. So actually it was pretty good timing for me putting that there. But it can still put it there, which is adjacent to 2 corals, which still gives it 2 more points. And red cog there. So we move along 1, and now we've got a symbol on here. It's like a little looking old school spyglass thing. Anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to grab the top one of these, flip it over, and we're looking for the lake with an egg on top of it, the leftmost one. So that's basically going to be this lake here, and we cover it up. And what that basically means is we're going to start over the course of the game filling up all these lake spots, which then obviously gives us more habitats, which means our end game options gives us even more resources, and it ramps up. Anyway, look, so it's covered up the lake, it grabs an egg, and that is the end of that turn for Tingent. Over to me now. And look, I have no crew members left. I could buy cards. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I don't think I can. I could do that one, but no, for now, let's recharge. So a couple of things happen. I bring back all my crew members. Next, if I had any recharge cards in my tableau, I would now action them. So they're really good cards to get out early if you can. Do I have any recharge cards? No, I do not. Okay, awesome. So that's that. And then we move our timer down 1. So let's move this down 1. We flip this over, and this is telling me we've got an X symbol. So we're looking for eggs. We're going to draw eggs out of here. Any X symbols on here that don't have an egg on it. So I'll put one out there. There's an X there. X there, and I'm pretty sure that's all of them. Now, underneath that, we also have a butterfly net. So let's grab a butterfly net, and that is done. Now we move over to Tingent, and Tingent is going to put its crew member out against green fruit. And look, it's going to go up here. 1, 2, 3. 3 more points. Massive lead already. I'm not doing too great, but that's pretty much standard for me. And also red cog symbol, which actually gives me another timer. So the timer goes down 1 more again. So we're going to go down here. Now this one's telling me I could get a butterfly net and a full sweep. Now, Tingent never gets butterfly nets, but the full sweep we can do, which is basically putting out all these cards, and then we get rid of them. And there we go. That would happen there. I would then top that up with 6 more cards, and we would keep moving on. Look, I think that's enough solo for you to just get an understanding. Now, obviously this is very early days. Over the course of the game, your tableau is going to get a lot bigger. You're going to need those tableaus to be able to achieve all of these goals. But this goal here is 8 eggs. Right now I've only got 2. You want to get so many more of them going, and they need to be hatched eggs as well. So unhatched eggs. Look, a lot to think about, a lot more gameplay to go there. Tingent, you'd go through the deck. Once you run out of cards, you would then shuffle them, start again, keep going. Tingent would go all the way down, the game would ramp up, and hopefully at the end of it, you would win. Whew, Wondrous Creatures. So let's go into the review part of it, and let's have a think about how really good is this game. It's amazing. Wondrous Creatures, from the same publishers as Wild Serengeti and Life of the Amazonia, brings us to this mythical island with all these wonderful, I guess, wondrous creatures. Well, makes sense. Look, there's so many cards in here, and on the solo run through, I reckon I only put maybe 1/3 of the cards out on the table. There's so many cards, and we'll talk about all of that in the pros and cons, but I want to caveat this review up front and say, look, this is the Kickstarter version of the game. I paid for this game, it's my own copy, so there may be some biases there, because whenever you back a Kickstarter, I think there's always biases in that anyway. Look, we're going to chat about, I guess, the uniqueness of this game, the pros and cons, and I'll give you my final thoughts, but let's start with the uniqueness and what makes this game stand out different to other board games, and why should you actually spend money on it? Well, I think the uniqueness in the gameplay probably stretches to your worker placement actually taking over 2 hexes and you're going to get the adjacency to those 2 hexes. And I think that's quite unique in itself, and that's the way you're going to be getting your resources, and also the same way you're going to be getting your cards into your hand. I think that's quite unique and pretty much the highlight of the gameplay mechanisms. The other things I love the eggs. I love the fact you hatch the eggs, you turn them over once you've achieved your goal there, your achievement, and then you've got cards that can maybe bring them back again, and then you can rehatch them again later on, and I absolutely love that. And lastly, we have these hex tiles. So your island is going to be constantly shifting and changing over the game, and look, I love that. So those lakes that we have there will eventually turn into habitats, and by the end of the game, you're going to be getting multiple resources, multiple cards, and yeah, the game ramps up. And I love a game that ramps up. So look, they're all the unique things. I guess everything else probably has similar vibes to multiple games. And let's have a think about some of those games this reminds me of. And straight away, you think of games like Earth and Terraforming Mars with just the sheer number of cards, and even potentially Wingspan in that regard, because there's so many cards, all individual artwork, all brilliant, and I love that. What else have we got? Probably games like Everdell, because you think about that open drafting, you got those race to score those objectives, games like Revive, even Ark Nova. So there's a lot of games I think you can get some inspiration from, but look, you can have this on its own, and it stands on its own. And maybe for some people it's going to replace something, like potentially this could replace an Everdell if Everdell's feeling a bit flat for you, but overall, look, I think it stands on its own, and you can have it in your collection if you like that genre of games. Now, let's have a chat about the pros and the cons of Wondrous Creatures. Let's chat about the pros, and look, we're not going to go anywhere past these amazing meeples. This is going to be the first pro, and it's always going to be the best pro. I've already mentioned before, that's what Bad Comic Games does, but just this genius idea of putting different captains, and you got a whole bunch of them, you can mix and match, and they magnetize on top of these different meeples. That is unbelievable. I love that more than anything in this game. And, you know, to be honest, that's why I love Bad Comic Games. Like, when I saw Wild 7 getting, I got to play with all those African animal meeples, I felt like a kid again. And maybe that's the joy I get in these board games. I get to feel like a kid. I might have had a really crappy, day at work, and I can come home and I can play a solo game. I can just have fun, and that's where board games is absolutely brilliant. So the components are next level, but I expect nothing else from them. So next up, the rulebook. I know this seems something that we don't even think about anymore, but a well-written rulebook. It's actually been a while since I've went through a rulebook and I've had no further questions. It has answered everything I want. Very well written. I just wanted to make sure I brought that up because I really like that, and I've had some absolute shockers this year, and this has been one of the best written ones this year, so well done for that. Next up, I reckon the solo mode, and I won't even say I love a good solo mode, I need a good solo mode. Now, I've got a bunch of games, and if they don't have a decent solo mode, then to be honest, they're not going to get that longevity that I need in my collection. So this Tingent, I like to call him Stingy Tingy. Stingy Tingy, he does the job. So there's 4 different variations, 4 different versions, making him a little bit harder each time, and it does the job. It blocks those spaces where I need it to. It's vying for those objectives. It's forcing me to race for things that maybe I wouldn't have ordinarily raced for. It does what an AI bot needs to do, and I really appreciate that. And then lastly, the pro for this game is very much in my wheelhouse. And again, I talked about biases right at the top, and look, these medium weight Euros, worker placement, tableau games, they are very much in my wheelhouse. And look, I have severe biases. Everdell is one of my favorite games. Wingspan, there's all these games I absolutely love. And look, this very much fits into that category. I very much enjoy Wondrous Creatures, and I think it's because it's my type of game. Now let's have a chat about those cons. Let's start with the game length. And I think it stated something like 40 to 80 minutes or whatever it was. And if the game can deliver in, say, an hour and 15, even an hour and a half, I'm in my absolute sweet spot right there. Unfortunately for me, every single game went longer than that. Solo, 2, 3 players. I didn't get a chance to play at 4 players, but at 3 players, everything just went longer, and I wish it was just that little bit shorter. And maybe it's because this game has a lot of repetitive actions. I don't know, I wish it was just a tad bit shorter. It would have made the game even more perfect. After that, the actual game board. Now, I talked about the components being a pro, and those meeples are through the roof. Max Chicken's amazing. But the player board, the game board, the player board's great because I've got a dual layer player board and they're amazing, but it's the actual game board. And for whatever reason, I'm hoping it's my own copy, but there's frayed edges, there's dints in it. It's just seems of a lesser quality to everything else in the box. And I went reading through the forums and I noticed someone else brought this up as well. So I hope, again, I hope there's only a few copies out there like that and everyone else is really happy with it. But that's the only thing that lets it down because everything else is just so beautiful. And then lastly, look, the goals. Goals are great. I love objectives in games that we're all fighting over. And look, there's a few of them there. Or maybe would prefer a few more. But the one thing I think I'm missing is private hidden goals. And maybe that is a personal feeling where I love that in games where there's those hidden goals that everyone has and they're all going for. And I'm just missing that in this game. And that's just something that, you know, again, it's not a deal breaker, but it's just something to take this game to that next stratosphere. They're the little things I look for. So that's all of my pros. That's all of my cons. What do I truly think of this game? Well, I absolutely loved it. I really did love it. Out of all the games I played in 2024, this was one of the ones that pretty much brought me the most joy. And it's because of those biases. It's because of games like Everdell that it's that sweet spot for me. A medium weight Euro, worker placement, tableau. It's everything I love in board games. And so it's perfect for me. So I absolutely love it. And I think for a lot of people, if you love those sort of games, then you will really enjoy this. Look, Bad Comic Games has done an outstanding job with this. They're just giving us such individual games that I'm really enjoying every single one they're putting out. Anyway, that is all I have. I hope you enjoyed this review and this solo playthrough of Wondrous Creatures. Now, if you appreciate everything I do in my videos, I would love a thumbs up and maybe a cheeky little subscription. Up to you. Anyway, that's all I have. Till next time, laters.